Hey, what's going on, everybody? Shane here from Volvo Display Gaming, and today I'm joined by Chuck Beebe, a fantastic artist delving into everything from music to animation to comics to even board games, and we're going to get all into this. How you doing, Chuck? Thanks for joining me today.
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm looking at that Aliens arcade cab there. That's pretty crazy.
Hell yeah, that gives me an opportunity to promote another friend of mine, my buddy Vincent. He builds custom arcade cabs, and as you can see, there's a face hugger down there below, and that is a full 1-to-1 scale size alien that he had one of his friends get into like a suit, like a rubber suit or something, and then he did the whole casting around him. So it was pretty cool stuff. It plays a bunch of games, but yeah, as you can
That's
tell,
wild.
as we've talked about before, I'm into heavy metal and nerd shit.
Is that like it's like a thinner profile cabinet?
No, it's a
full?
full-size cabinet. There's a PC in the back and everything, and it's easy to work on if you need to switch things out, but it has like thousands of games.
But the depth, now we're just talking about the cabinets here.
No, hell yeah.
The depth is like a standard depth of an arcade thing? Or
I
thinner?
think, if I remember correctly, here, I can check real quick. I think it's
Put
like,
you to work.
yeah.
There we go. Now that's a man right there with the measuring tape.
So with this cab, it's a 4-player panel. The full extension is 41 inches in depth.
Well, I don't know what the normal one is anyways, but it looks rad. It's very cool. It's probably a smarter thing to have than my cabinets that are like all in questionable working condition and take up way too much space. And here you have one thing for all your needs.
No, I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, if you look, like, if I could move this over any further, I have my Jurassic Park and all my other cabs.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I used to have 30 cabs at one point.
Oh my God, really? Wow. That is as many as I've ever had.
It was not a healthy hobby because you had no space to even use these damn games.
I know. I see like those people that like get a house somewhere not in California and they like have a basement.
Yeah.
And they turn it into like an 80s arcade with carpeting. And I'm like, that does sound cool, but I don't know.
Let me tell you, it's a pain moving these things.
Oh,
and
God.
and if something goes out, you know for sure, like monitors are not fun to fix. Electrical problems, all sorts of problems keeping these 40-year-old games alive, you know?
Yeah. And I have no technical ability. So like if something breaks, I'm like, well, hey, that's it, you know?
Now, like I said, we'll talk a little bit after. I got some buddies that can help you out with. I think you said your Street Fighter 2 wasn't working.
The monitor is
Yeah.
dead. It's made a stinky smell and everything. It was
Yeah. When that happens, usually something popped on the board, a battery capacitor or something, it leaked out. Yeah, I mean, I have tons of monitors. I can see if one works, but I'll see what's going on. I got to remind myself to look into
No
that
pressure.
for you.
That's very cool though.
Hell yeah. So arcades aside, we got a lot in common, a lot to talk about. I would love to know how you got started in your drawing career, because all of your art stemmed from drawing, right? And then you branched off into there. You obviously have a deep love of all things metal. And what got this all started? Was it album art? What comic inspired you?
You know, it's a lot of, I mean, it's the whole life experience, you know, comics for sure. For sure, when I was a kid going to the record stores and like seeing Maiden covers and all that stuff seared it into my brain a little bit. And I've always kind of liked the more kind of violent and scarier kind of the stuff that fits within metal. But although my style isn't necessarily always it's more cartoonish, stuff like that. But I mean, I was always drawing since I was a kid. There's like, my dad somewhere has this big drawing I did when I was a kid of like knights fighting, and there's like this big gate with like a skull and horns on it, and like the eyes on it are like the same eyes I was drawing in black metal, but when I was a kid, and it was like knights cutting each other's heads off. And it's not like a good drawing, but it's like, oh, I'm still drawing the same thing basically. And getting into like, I think I was always drawing. I sort of gave it up through most of high school. I would doodle, but I didn't go to like art classes. I never took any real classes like that. And then at some point, I think late in high school, like in high school, I got really into music, actually like punk rock and hardcore, which is what kind of led me to metal. But uh, I got so into that, I did zines and stuff like that, and I really wasn't worried about drawing. Um, Still doodling here and there. But then after high school, 18 years old, like and that's also the time I was getting into like black metal. Um, and my buddy, I got into comics because he introduced me to Sin City and to Preacher. And they weren't really old comics back then. They were still like kind of fresher or newer. Maybe there were still Preacher books coming out. I don't know. But all that stuff really opened my mind. Not to say that I wasn't into comics when I was younger. I was there for right before the Image boom in '90s, and so I loved all the Marvel stuff, and then got into the Image stuff, and then I kind of washed my hands of comics. But I came back, and then I was like, hey, I could do this. I started drawing and started doing mini comics. Did some like small conventions for like indie stuff, like Ape. Met people, just talked to people, and kept at it. And I was like, this is a thing I could do. I can draw things, and I can put them in squares, and boxes, and make comics, and that sort of seemed like a path for me, and it kind of worked, to some degree. I don't know.
I mean, how much of this is perseverance, luck, and just determination with like, I should keep this up? Did you have to find that like, hey, I was at the right place at the right time for this to actually like, oh, people actually like my stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a part of it. I think there is some luck, and then the luck is like how if you've got the ability to do it at that time, are you able to take advantage of that? And like, I had a lot of like the first comics that I had published were Secret Skull by Steve Niles. And it was because like I went onto his website, he had a message board, and I was sharing my artwork on there, and like a lot of other people were doing the same thing, and a lot of people actually got little gigs from that sort of little scene. And he was like, hey, you want to do a comic? And I was like, sure, having no idea. And I was at school in college at the time at an art school, so I was doing a comic like while I was going to school, and it was kind of overwhelming. but I did it, and I don't even remember what I was initially talking about here. I'm wandering off into memory lane.
No, it's just how much of it was luck, and how much of it like, oh, you were at the right place, the right time to get this going.
It's a little bit of luck, but it's also like making your own luck, putting yourself out there, I think, is a big thing, and I'm still trying to figure out what it is today with all this stupid social media and stuff like that. But like back then it was putting yourself out there, asking like, and then I got to do, after I did Secret Skull, I got to do a story in the Flight anthology, which at the time was very cool, kind of had this like Miyazaki vibe to it, and had really cool artists in it. And I went onto their message board, and I wrote them a message, hey, could I get in on this? And they were like, oh yeah, you're sure, you could do this. And with black metal, it was a little different because I by then had graduated school, so I was kind of not like working full time in comics. I was just like finding little things to do here, but still focusing on school. And by the end of school, I was like, I really want to do a metal comic. Black metal was like always the metal I was really into, and so I met Rick at one of those conventions I was talking about, Rick Spears, and kind of like worked its way there. So if you don't put yourself out there, though, you're not gonna like, if you don't meet people, if you don't do that gross thing, which actually doesn't have to be that gross. You can have fun if you're surrounding yourself with people you like, and it doesn't have to be gross. But you do have to like get out there and talk to people and put yourself out there. And now everyone knows you got to put yourself out there all the time, 24 hours a day, all day long.
Yep. I mean, to that point, though, because I was going to ask about how social media plays a role in a young artist's career nowadays, or just any artist's career. You said it yourself. You were hitting the message boards. That was like the first ever pre-social media right there, just sharing everybody on the message boards. And now you're trying to get back into this. Trust me, I haven't had social media in 10 years. I'm trying to figure all this shit out still. How has it been? How are you trying to adapt to that? And do you think this is going to be something that's going to stay around for a very long time? Or do you think it's going to start falling off? Or what's going on with all this stuff? It's weird. I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. It's just like, well, it's just part of the game now. Like you gotta, if you want people to know who you are or know what you're doing, you kind of have to put yourself out there. Otherwise, unless you're, I think there's also the real life aspect. Like putting out books is also another way to let people know you're out there. Going to conventions still, I think, is another way. Like meeting people face to face is a way to like do the same thing. Social media is more like you're hoping that people find you. You're trying to throw out as much as you can to sort of grab somebody to sort of like dig what you're doing. And I mean that, and I just started doing Instagram like a year ago, which sucks because it's, I was busy working in animation and in games and like just kind of doing stuff that wasn't public facing for a while, and that was like when social media was really booming and like Instagram and all that stuff, and I just didn't have time for it, didn't really want it, and I still don't really want it. I just feel like I have to do it. I have to like put myself out there. It's like, how come I'm talking to you? It's probably because I'm out there putting my shit out there, and hopefully it's like, oh, you know it, or you've been recommended it, but it's also like it's tough because it's so hard now to get followers, right? I see artists that are not that good, and I don't mean to be rude. I'm just like, they're not professional,
but they have a good social media. Yeah, they have a good social media presence.
And part of it is maybe also they were on it 4 years ago, so they've had all this time, and now and like things get gross with like the algorithms and the way these social media platforms are constantly changing everything, and they're obviously controlling your reach. If you get like a professional account, you'll see like I have 500 followers or whatever.
Yeah.
But only 30 of them are actually being shown this content.
I have the same thing. I look at it and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like,
but they're trying to steer you to use their like new thing, like use Reels because we need to compete with TikTok, or use Stories now, or this and that. Yeah. The other thing they're trying to steer you to is to pay to boost your content, and like makes a lot of sense if you're selling something to do something like that.
Yeah.
But like these companies have existed now for a while, and none of them are making money. And all of a sudden, they're like, we need to start generating an income. And what's the way to do that? Well, it's like to pay for reach. It's the most valuable thing they offer, and so that sucks. That sucks. But on the other hand, grinding at it seems to be paying off. Like I'm just pushing stuff out there, and I'm slowly growing the Instagram account, and I think the people that follow me do like what I'm doing, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't need to have 1 million followers, just more than 580 would be cool though, so come and join the party.
Well, we'll have all your links down below where you can find Chuck at,
right down there.
But to that aspect, and going back to the whole social aspect of social media, let's X out the media part and go back to networking, because that's how I genuinely got in touch with you, is through our buddy Mike, and I would like to shout him out, Mike Wellman. Please go follow. Yeah, please go follow him too. He's working on a new comic, A Shadow Called Danger. I'll put his stuff out there too, because Mike's a real good dude. Always want to promote and uplift as many artists and writers and everybody as I can.
And Mike has done a lot for the scene, and comics in general. He ran a comic shop for a number of years. Is very involved in that, very like friendly to creators and all that stuff. Very nice guy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now back to you, which is why we're here for. I have my whole stack over there, but I want to talk about, it's been 15 years you're doing Stone Cold Lazy and Decibel now. How has that process been, and how'd you get started with all of that? I absolutely love those comics. I've been a long time reader, and I was like, oh, hell yeah. He's always kick ass.
That's cool. I'm glad. I don't hear a lot from people talking about it, so it's great to know that.
Yeah. See my
stack?
Why
would you like...
Look, the stack over there.
Hey now, that's a nice stack of decibels.
And comics and everything, but it's all over there. So, yeah. Okay. Before I cut you off, keep going. Just...
So how did it get started? So I did the book Black Metal, and at the time when I did that book, it was with Rick, like through Oni Press. That was like 2006. There wasn't really metal stuff in comics. There was heavy metal magazine, but it wasn't actually metal, like true metal, and you just wouldn't see anything like that. So somehow we kind of broke through, and like all the metal media and like labels and stuff were like, oh, there's a black metal book, like send you CDs, and Decibel, who I was already a subscriber to, was like, hey, do you want to do a comic? and sort of I wormed my way into doing that and had no idea what I was doing because I'm doing this like 3 panel strip, which, like, if you know anything about writing comics, and I'm not saying that they're all good, it's hard to write a joke for
In
one.
3 panels.
Hard to write a joke, tell the story in like a very small space. So it's always a challenge, and I'm not always hitting it. I'm happy with some of them more than others, but it's also this thing that I just would do for every issue. So it was just like exploring, just trying out stuff, figuring out how to do it as I did it, and I'm still figuring it out. The comics changed a lot over the past 15 years, and I shift around from doing different things. Like sometimes I bring back these recurring characters. Sometimes I'm just like, I want to comment on something that's happening in the scene, or sometimes it's like I put myself in there or whatever, just kind of whatever. Because it's also this weird thing that I only do once a month. It's not like a thing I do every day.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have to set aside time and figure it out. And I get like from the editor a list of like what's going on in the magazine, so I can sort of draw from that. Sometimes I find a band in that I'm like, oh, I've never even really got into them, so I'll check them out and get about it and write a comic about that. So, I mean, it's been cool. It's weird. It's also just a strange thing to write comics or make comics or art about music, which is a sound, and this is a zero sound sort of media, comics. So it's like, how do you make that interesting and work? And it's always weird, but sometimes it works.
I mean, for example, like I love the Necrot one you did, like all his bones are crushed. It's like, what happened to you? It's like, oh, I was listening to Necrot, and like Necrot rules and crushes, that kind of stuff. I love that you interject bands in there, and then again, it's hard to tell a joke or even just purvey what kind of sound that band is, and you do it through that the 3 panels, and it works perfectly.
Well, thank you. I like that one too. I think that one's cool, and it's cool to cool thing for me with social media though, going back to that, is like I can post those on the Instagram, and then sometimes the bands see it, sometimes they repost it, sometimes they comment, they say this is so cool, and that's awesome. Like when a band is like, I can't believe to see our logo on your t-shirt,
yeah.
Like, have we made it now? And that's really cool. And the answer is no, you haven't made it if I put you on a t-shirt. But it means that I like you. And so that's very rewarding and very cool. And so that's something I like about it.
I mean, and then going into, like you said, it's a lot of work just to do a 3-panel comic strip to tell a joke. How is your creative process when you do your longer form content? And then we'll break it down, because I want to know about, how'd you go about doing animation and even the game when you were in games, all those kind of processes. So let's start with how do you storyboard your comics and everything?
Oh, I mean, it'd be like I get a script, or if I don't have a script, it's like I'm writing the script. If I'm writing it myself, it's pretty loose. Probably I might just sort of do sketch thumbnails out and write at the same time. Or if I get a script from a writer, it's like I look through and sort of just break it down, very very loose. And back with black metal, I was working all traditionally, so it was all like inking with a brush, pencil, lots of mistakes, no undo. And now I work a lot more digitally, which is very freeing. It's not as true, but it's freeing and lets me sort of erase things very easily and try things without the worry of having to throw away a piece of paper or whatever. So yeah, I'm just but I loved inking with brush. That was nice. So I do miss that a little bit, and I'll go back to it sometime when I have space to set up a table again. But I don't know. Does that answer for process for comic making? I mean,
I think so. I don't know. I think every artist has their own process, but just, it's always nice to dig deep a little bit. So if somebody who genuinely wants to get into comics, they can be like, oh, that's a pretty good, idea of where to start. Just be loose with it, sketch everything out, I've never storyboarded a comic, so I was curious. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Be loose with it. I mean, you gotta be loose. You gotta be loose. If you're too tight, you're never gonna catch it. You gotta catch the muse in the wind.
Right.
Ride that. You gotta ride the dragon.
Hell yeah. So I also want to highlight you were on Teen Titans Go, and That I liked it. I thought it was fun. I liked the original one too, but Go was pretty fun. How was that working in animation for a while? How'd you have get about that?
So yeah, and the Teen Titans Go is was great. So I was a background designer on there. Backgrounds are were all produced in house. A lot of the animation and stuff like that is done in Canada now, but we did all like the artwork in the backgrounds. And the cool thing was one of the art directors, or the art director at the time that I joined, was Dan Hipp, who's an amazing artist, who I knew from comics way back in the day. And I also had a friend who was a brother of. So this is like how it works. Like people, it's very
Yep.
helpful. Not that they give you the job, but that they're like in their mind, they're like, oh yeah, this guy. So I have a guy who's working in backgrounds, Eric Anderson, really great guy, very talented, and they need a background designer, and he suggests me, and Dan's like, oh yeah, I know Chuck's work, let's bring him in. And it was the first time I had ever worked on like a TV show. But I was ready for it. I had the skills. It was all based in Adobe Illustrator. That was a program I was pretty comfortable in. And it took a while to get, like, there were very strict rules about how the show had to look and all that stuff. But, so I think I grew a lot in that period of time. I would recommend highly anybody who's like needs to grow, get on a TV show and work your ass up every day, drawing nonstop for 9 hours a day, and like once you're done with one background, on to the next. And you get pretty comfortable making art that way. And I think it built a lot of confidence in me, in my ability to be more versatile, and also with digital stuff, because before that I wasn't as comfortable in Photoshop and Illustrator and Cintiq. Like I would prefer to draw a comic on paper and like do it this way that I had been used to doing it, and this sort of really pushed me out of my safety zone and forced me to try all kinds of different things and work hard. It's also nice to work in that industry because it's a union thing. So there's a lot of protections. You get health care, you get adult man wages, and that's nice. Comics is a lot harder, I think.
Oh yeah, comics you're at the mercy of the people for that one.
But yeah, but it's fun. It was a great time. Great. I was there for like 3.5 years. I even got to do some stuff on the movie. I got really into doing the text cards, like type, like if it would say some sort of a word and have like a cute little weird illustration, I'd really enjoy doing stuff that allowed me to break away from doing standard backgrounds. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool. It's must have been a fun time. Did you do any other animation stuff, or are you wanting to get back in animation?
I'd done freelance stuff like with other studios around LA for like commercials, like Starbucks things, a NASCAR thing, even an old General Electric thing, like, and usually it'd be like people that I had worked with before saying, hey, we need this guy's style on this thing, or he would bring a lot of whatever imagination to it. And I love those gigs too. Like those would be shorter gigs, maybe like 2 weeks to a month long, pay very well.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So
you get to work with cool people. So yeah.
Exactly. So again, this all goes back, it's all coming back to networking, knowing people, getting your work out there. So then some people be, I can reference him to here, and
Yeah. And it sounds crappy to talk about networking that way, but think of it as like finding people. How are people going to hire you if they don't know you? How are you, like, in any aspect of life, why would you trust somebody you don't know?
And yeah,
It's easier to trust someone you know.
Well, let's rephrase networking then. Making friends.
Making friends, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I never schmoozed in the way that was kind of close, Like,
yeah.
I just liked hanging out with cool people and talking to them and getting to know them. And if they were like, know that I make arts, that's cool. And if that comes together in some way, all the better. Because it's very hard, it's very hard to get out there, to get work, to figure out what you're going to do. So like doing it alone it's a hard road.
Oh yeah. Rising tides lift all ships. So if you can, like we've shouted out other people and talked about them, you can do that. Always do that. So also you've hit every medium, if I may say, gaming to tabletop gaming. Now you did Exploding Kittens. How is it working on that? How did design come about that, and how do you compare that art style to your other art styles? Did you bring in your own? You're like, I want to Did you get a how do you say, an overall I had it written down here. A like guide. That's what it is. They say we want it your style or free for all. Go how you want it.
So when I joined them, they were kind of in this sort of like startup phase. So they had like already Exploding Kittens, the original card game, had already come out. And because it was such a success, they were starting to grow the company a bit. And so again, there was a guy that I knew who was working there. He recommended me. And I left Teen Titans to go work there. So I was already like kind of feeling pretty confident in my abilities to shift styles and stuff like that. So they didn't really have a style per se, but there was a sort of the Oatmeal, Matt Inman sort of style is sort of like the lodestar for kind of like the humor and the vibes. And sometimes we would do things that emulated his style. Other times we'd get to do things that were just different. Like they weren't as concerned about keeping it looking the same, except for in Exploding Kittens, the card game, that one game in particular, you kind of want a cohesive style. But beyond that, they were like trying to do different things. And I think Matt was a pretty like experimental artist trying to like make nice looking things. So I got to do all kinds of stuff there. I mean, I was an art director, managing people, artists, mentors, all kinds of things, you know, getting into marketing. Like I had to interface with all the different departments. So I was kind of exercising different parts of my brain as well. But yeah, like we did a line of kids things that were totally not in that style that I would try to come up with sort of like new styles. Like there was this
Oh hell yeah.
little cute ice cream dog.
Yeah.
For one of the games. I just happened to have it right there.
I'll probably be having some pictures of it pop up here.
Oh yeah, pop up those pictures. There's some stuff up there. So when I first joined, I did poetry for Neanderthals. Designed a font, which I had never done before, because you know initially we wanted to have a lot of art on the cards, and we realized there's way too many cards. The art's not important. How can I give this something kind of like special? So I designed this like font with all the alphabet and everything to like use for that game, and I think that kind of became one of the defining aspects of that game. And so just from there on, I like to try different things too, or challenge myself, which makes me feel nervous, but I also at this point in my career feel confident that I can kind of take on most anything, you know, within reason, and find something good there and make it my own, or
I mean,
provide some value.
yeah. I mean, it's great that you started out just drawing and then you transitioned in all these other different roles. You've constantly evolved. So you could safely say to anybody out here watching this that wants to get into this industry, you may be wearing a lot of different hats that you won't be used to.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, you've been evolving and changing with that. Have you faced any difficulties or challenges with all of that?
Well, I mean, I think it's an interesting point to bring up, which is like personally, I like evolving and changing, you know, but I think people like a McDonald's, because you go to McDonald's every time and the McDonald's always tastes the same. And if you go to Japan, it tastes even a little better, you know, but it always tastes like McDonald's. And for me, it's like, I'm always kind of, I've done a lot of different styles. I think there's always like my style within it, sort of, but I like changing. And I think that's maybe a little harder for people to understand. Like, I think everybody at the time when I did black metal would prefer maybe I keep drawing that style, you know, keep doing that. And also I think there's a lot of benefits to that, because then people know you and they know what you do and they know how it looks. They know what to expect. So like personally, growth is very satisfying, and trying all these things is very satisfying, and like especially succeeding at doing them is very satisfying. But like the best advice would be do one thing only, you know, don't wear all these hats, so that people know exactly what you are and what you do. The path that I'm on, I feel like is harder because it isn't so easily like pinned down into one thing. On the other hand, I like that. I like doing different things. I want to expand and explore, and that's what gives me meaning.
Well, and you're way later into your career. Don't say not to tell anybody starting out to start doing all of that. You know, just focus on one thing, ride that path, and then when the opportunity presents itself, then branch out. You know.
Yeah. When you're young, I mean, just do something. You know, I mean, that'd be the best. If you haven't done anything, just do something if you want to. if that's what you want, you know. Get out there, put yourself out there, put your work out there. I mean, that's kind of it.
And speaking of putting work out there, let's talk about some of your musical stuff.
Ooh.
Nosk, Call of the Void, as well as Ajur. And this was based off of Hollow Knight. So you got gaming stuff in there too. And how was your experience in game design? What did you do with all of that that's accumulated into all of this?
Man, well, Nosk of the Void, yeah, is totally based on Hollow Knight. It's sort of
Great game.
It's not like the story of Hollow Knight or anything like that. It's more about my experience playing it that inspired me to make an album because of this. Like, the game is brutal, very difficult game, like difficult barrier to entry, I think. And like, I'm not a hardcore gamer. Like, I haven't played Elden Ring, and I don't do the like, I've tried Dark Souls, and I'm like, I see what this is. I'm not going to do this. Like, it will require me to put in a lot of time to get
a
good.
time sink.
And I can't do that. And Hollow Knight is like literally the only game where I've done that, where I just was like, I was so in love with the sound and the visuals that I felt like I got to keep trying to defeat this first boss and get past this like hurdle. And once I did, like, the whole world opened up to me. So I just fell in love with this game, and I spent way too much time working on it. I would think about it constantly, and I was like, I need to like exercise this somehow. And I was sort of driving to work one day and thinking about this song that was Grub Hunter. And because one of the things in Hollow Knight is you're like, one of the hidden quests is you're trying to find all these little grubs and return them back to the fly. And I just thought that's kind of like a deep cut of the game. Like, you have to actually play the game to know what I'm talking about. And I just started writing it. And then I was like, let me try to record some music. And I futzed around. Like, it wasn't my first time touching guitar or even like software. I just never took it very seriously. This time I was like, all right, you're a professional artist, man. Try to make something. And turns out that, you know, it worked out okay. It's not bad. And more than anything, and more importantly than any of the other things, I really liked it. I really found that music exercised a different part of my creativity that art doesn't touch. You know, that's not me working on a computer screen, not me drawing something. This is still the same kind of brain being used, but it's also like, sound is just different. Things happen in sound that kind of feel like out of your control. Like, you'll like play a thing and you're like, and you listen back and it almost doesn't always feel like you did it, you know? Mm-hmm. And I really liked it. And the fact that like, I was like, these songs don't suck. Hey, I kind of dig this. And like, and as far as like game design and stuff like that, like, most of my experience in gaming is like with Exploding Kittens, where I did get to like explore game design, but it wasn't video games. Mm-hmm. I had worked in video games in the past, like doing interstitial artwork for a number of different games, to character designs and stuff like that. But I was never like before involved in the design aspect of the gameplay, but more like character and art and, you know, story art and stuff like that. But I'd like to do more video game stuff. I am very open to video games. I love them. I mean, I love me some Nintendo, big time. So,
I mean, to your point too, it's like I love playing games. I've played Elden Ring. I try to put time into it, but it's as you get older, trying to put time into these games, it's a lot. That's why, again, I collect arcades. I have a lot of more 90s cabs, the ones I grew up playing, because I could pick up I could play an arcade game for like 5-10 minutes and be completely satisfied.
I think that's totally the way it is. Like I have a Miss Pac-Man that is like in questionable function right now. That game is crazy, and that game is all you need to get your heart fucking pounding out of your chest and stressed out like in 5 minutes, and then you're like, I don't need to play this again for like a year. You know? So yeah, I think the arcade games were built for you to keep pumping in quarters, so you can just get that little, like, you know, 10-15 minute of gameplay and be satisfied. But yeah, because otherwise, dude, you go play some of these games,
like 100-hour plus
you're
game.
Trading off parts of your life. You have to give up parts of your life. Like, no, we're not going to dinner tonight because I have to defeat this like ice lich or whatever the fuck, you know.
You know,
and the older you get, the more time slips right through your fingers, and so, you know, maybe I'll watch the playthroughs.
Oh, there you go. But I mean, one more thing about arcades, I love them so much. Arcades was the epitome of all things art. with the sound, the gameplay, and the cabinet itself. I
Hmm.
absolutely love cabinet design. I love the cabinet art, how it looked way cooler than some of these games. You're like, oh man, look at the
Yes.
centipede art. And you're like, what the hell is this game?
Good game, though.
Oh, great
No,
game.
I totally, and I think those old monitors, the
Hmm.
colors, the crispiness,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know, the feeling I got when I was going to play Street Fighter at the 7-Eleven when I was a kid, it's just hard to rival those vibes, those summer vibes. Going to get, I remember going to get like a Charleston shoe that had a coupon to get a Wolverine comic with Sam Keith art on it, and like playing Street Fighter 2 and getting an ice cream, and like that was my summer day, and it was the best. That was the best day. It's gone downhill since then. No
Right?
bills,
Hell
no
yeah, it's a
social
great
media.
day though. But let's go back to some of your music stuff. Now you just put out this year a juror. I had it right here. Um, yeah.
Just dropping things back here. I have it back here, hiding. I'm just gonna hold it up.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
There's the album
juror.
cover.
Yeah.
And this is a funny the artwork, which you can have it pop up later if you
Hmm.
like. My wife painted it. I did the sketch, did the design, and then she painted the oil painting, which is over there, but I don't want to get
Hell
up
yeah.
and grab
That's
it. But it's
okay. It's
very
popping up
cool.
right now.
And this one was I actually recorded some stuff that's not out in between Nosk of the Void and this, but this was like my next big black metal album. I didn't want to make it another Nosk of the Void album because it's not about Hollow Knight.
Hmm.
And I felt like, and I kind of like Nosk of the Void, kind of how it is. So I might make more Nosk music in the future, but this is kind of where I'm heading with my music now. It's still like atmospheric black metal, but I think like it showcases a lot of growth
Hmm.
in musicianship from that one and this one. Different, like for Nosk of the Void, I played everything. So vocals, guitar, synth, and drums. I even like, and the drums aren't great on that album, but it was like me learning how to play drum. This next one was like I programmed the drums, and then I recorded all the music, and then I had a drummer who was like really good record the drums. And I still think like I have a lot more to learn with all this stuff, especially with drums, and how to like record music with that. But yeah, should I keep babbling about a juror? Because I could.
Please do, please do. I am here for you, and this is I am your vassal and your platform.
Well, yeah, I wrote this album. I really like songwriting too, so I have fun here, and I think the lyrics are pretty good too. I'm happy, very happy with those parts. There's stuff in the music that I know could be better, but I think it all works. It's called, yeah, the album is called "Live Like You Know You're Going to Die," and that's sort of the ethos of the album. It's also like the last line in the album, the last song. Those are the last words, and that's sort of like what I want someone to walk away from if they listen and digest all this music. It starts off with like a Minotaur sort of mazy kind of thing, which is because I started off jumping off from Hollow Knight, which is also like very maze focused. And it's about like the hero coming to kill the Minotaur, but there is some like sardonicness to it where it's not clear like who the villain is. Is the Minotaur the villain? Are you the villain? I'm doing a terrible job explaining it, but each of the songs sort of goes over a kind of like the different oppressive forces that we all face, like ruling elites, slavery, or other forms of like keeping the people down, war, of course, politics, the cult of personality, this fear of the end of the world, people speaking about the end of the world or crises, like sort of ginning up people to get excited about stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be gotten excited about. And yeah, the overall meaning is like, hey, you now that you kind of know all these things are working against you, you still have power and agency there, and like understand that your time is limited. What you do with your time is all that you can control, and remember what's important and like focus on that. Find strength in the
Hell
fact
yeah.
that you have an expiration date.
So all that being said, you said you did a terrible job of explaining it. Let's have the music speak for itself. And here's a quick 30-second clip of some Nosk, followed by some Ajura. So check it out. And we hope you liked all of that. So again, those links will be down below. Because can we still get physical copies of Nosk?
Yeah. I think if you go to, I think noskofthevoid.com is still up. Or you can go to chuckbb.com, and I think I have those on my web store as well. They're pretty cheap. Also on Bandcamp. So noskofthevoid.bandcamp.com is a good spot to order that. I think they're like $8. I have vinyl copies as well.
Oh, hell yeah. I want to get
Still
a vinyl.
those.
And then, Ajur, just CDs right now, or do you have cassettes and vinyl?
CDs and cassettes.
Okay.
No vinyl. But the one thing to note is they come with an art book. So.
Oh, hell yeah.
So if you order the record or the CD or cassette, it comes with like a lyric art book. So like each song has a piece of art that I've done for it, and the lyrics on the adjacent page. So, and some other fun. It's a lot of art in there.
Hell yeah.
That's available. So if you go to Fiad's website, which is like FIADH, that's the record label. They have those for sale on that. So
again, it'll all be down below.
Yeah.
So y'all should check that out.
I don't need to give any more URLs, is what you're saying.
Exactly. It'll all be down there. Just spell it out. HTTP --
Yeah, w.ska. Or you go to ajur.net.com. Let's go.
There we go. All of them there. But I want to keep all this going. Let's bring it back to the art. And I do want to say something that you've been holding back on about black metal. And I want to talk about, you got an Eisner for that. How was that?
That's cool. It's weird. I think kind of didn't understand what a big deal it was. I mean, I knew it was a big deal, but I was young, and like, I think I regret I didn't really know how to like maximize on that kind of attention. You know, I was like 26 years old, which is not that young, but now that I think, I was a real dope for many years. So, but yeah, I won. It was like, it's a weird award because I don't think they give it out anymore, but it was like
they still do it
special
Comic-Con
recognition for new talent kind of thing.
that one, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if they give that specific award out anymore. It was the weirdest thing. Like the dude, Tom Kenny, who does SpongeBob's voice, like introduced me as the winner. Like he presented that one. So I'm like going up, and I'm like, you get up on the stage and you look out, and it's like lights blasting in your face. You can't see anyone, and you're like, blah, 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 blah. All these professional actors and people that have been there and doing the Eisner thing for a long time are like good at it. And I get up on the stage, and I think I probably didn't give enough love and thanks and whatever. I think I was just kind of awkward and was like, this is for the metalheads or something like that. But it was a trip. I mean, like Frank Miller is on the stage earlier that night, Sam Jackson, like all these kind of people. And I went into it thinking there's no way that I'm going to win because all the other people are better than me. But I think I split the vote, lucked out. But it was also this sort of strange thing where it's like this big hurrah, woo, you did it. And then like I finish, and then it's late. I go to like get one drink at the party that the publisher was having, and everyone's like, hey, yeah, congratulations, woo, and it's like this big deal. And then the evening ends, and then I walk 1 mile in San Diego to my hotel where all my friends are staying. There's like 8 guys in a room, you know, 'cause it's very expensive, and I was a young man and doing all the young man things. And they were all asleep. I just won this award. It's a big deal. Everybody's sleeping. So I just like went and tried to find a place on the floor to sleep. And that was my thing. But it was cool. It's an honor, you know. It's impressive. I think even getting nominated is pretty crazy. It's all pretty crazy. I don't think I really understood the whole like how to utilize it back then, because it didn't like result in lots more offers for work or anything like that. It wasn't like, hey, you won an award, now you're like a big deal. It's still comics. I mean, people care only so much, and it didn't, like, you would assume that would come with something else, but it doesn't. And I think that's was the most strange part about it all. But now I understand, you know. And if I win an Eisner Award today, you better believe I'm going to maximize on that success. But that's not the way it goes.
I mean, I just want to say it's a big deal because you're getting recognized by your peers and people in the industry, which to me, that would mean more than anybody else's validation. I'd be like, wow, these people that I've even looked up to and I like their work, they recognize me of something. That's cool.
Yeah. I probably also just felt a bit of like an imposter. Like, what am I doing here? Not understanding at all. But yeah, I don't mean to like, it's cool. I'm proud. It's insane. To me, it's crazy that a book called Black Metal would get that kind of attention. But, you know, and you know, it didn't make me feel like you think you're like, okay, I guess I'm good. I'm a good artist. It didn't make me feel that way. That's not something, I mean, that's still something I struggle with now, but I feel more confident in my ability to know because I've done a lot of stuff that at least like I'm okay.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an odd thing. It's strange for me to talk about because it's like, yeah, I did it. But I mean, it's cool. Hey, celebrate it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's why I want to bring it up because I think that's an important milestone in your career, and it shows how you progressed. Even at a young age, you already hit that award, you know, and you continue to do all these things because, again, wrapping all of this up, your career has expanded through, you know, board games, through animation, through comics, through music. You're hitting art in almost every form of media we can you know, consume nowadays. If you were to if you were to sum all of this up and your experiences to tell yourself when you were younger, like, this is going to be your life, is there any advice you would give to yourself back then that you know now?
Buy Bitcoin. I would tell myself.
You're like, then you won't need to draw. See these little comics? You don't need to draw this. Buy all the Bitcoin.
You know what? If I didn't have to worry about money, I think I'd be making way more art, way more pleasing art, you know, for myself. I think the struggle's always been trying to find work, you know, like, you're going to do all this stuff, but it's still going to be very difficult to pay your rent, and everything's going to be expensive, you know, and like that hasn't disappeared. You know, when I was working in animation, all those things are covered because you're working every day. When I'm working at Exploding Kittens, the same thing. But like when I'm freelancing right now, it's like, it's still a struggle. You know, the Eisner doesn't really mean anything to anybody that in that way. So I don't know what I would say to myself is what I would say is, you dope. You just won an Eisner Award. Make another comic really quickly because you're going to be old and you're not going to have any time. So keep doing this. Like, work harder, work way harder. And I did a lot of work with doing Black Metal. It's like the first book was like, I don't know how many pages, 150 pages or something like that. All said and done, all 3 books, it's like 400 and some pages. So I did a lot of work. Do more. Do even more. Work harder. You know, that's what I would tell myself back then. Because it took me a while to get to that point where I realized I had the capability and ability to run, you know, to work hard. Harder.
Yeah. I mean, that's what every artist generally, you know, has to do is just, if you're not working right now, somebody else is out there getting better than you and is going to take that job that you should have. Yeah. Or that work, you know. So, I mean, you've had an amazing career and it's still going. It's not over. You're still going. You still got a lot of
So
stuff going on. I mean, just
I
the
hope
hat.
so. I'm
Yeah,
trying to like
you're
get
washed
back
up.
out.
That's
I'm
it.
trying to
This
get
is
back
it.
out there.
This
I'm
is it.
trying.
Your swan song has already been done.
You never know.
Yeah, no.
Never
You
know.
still got a lot of stuff coming up, so I want to close this off. Is there any future projects or anything? You said you got some stuff you can't talk about yet. Do we have any idea when you can start talking about those things?
I think by the end of the year, I want to be talking about a lot of that stuff. Really trying to like once I started like once I left Exploding Kittens, I was just kind of like focused on like I want to focus on myself, like doing art for myself and hopefully find an audience. So one of the things I've been doing is a project that is called Hell Lords and Cell Swords. So I can talk about this because it's my own
Okay,
thing.
awesome.
Although this is the first time anyone's ever heard those words.
Hell
in
yeah.
public.
Exclusive right here.
But it's just was an excuse for me to create a bunch of creature designs and character designs and just like have fun and put a lot of time into that. I've been sharing recently on Instagram like some process stuff of some of those ones, but I want to have like a bunch of those done in a book by the end of the year with like story character stuff. It's not a comic, it's very art book focused, but it'll have like a D&D kind of vibe to it, maybe even stat blocks for each of these characters so that you could like put them into your campaign. So kind of your campaign compendium, but above all else, it's an art book that was an excuse for me to just push myself to create all these wild designs and characters. And I think they're coming out pretty great. I think they're going to look a lot different than the stuff I've done in the past, but also have some of that same vibe. I feel like they fit with metal, and this extremeness because I'm kind of pushing them a lot. So that's one thing. And I knock on wood, I hope to like start having that come together by the end of the year.
Hell yeah.
Probably will. And I don't know what'll happen with publishing or whatever, if I'll self-publish it or what I'll do yet. But I'm very far along in that process, and I want to have it done before I do a Kickstarter or do whatever. The other thing is there is a game project that I'm working on with some guys, new company they're starting. And having just left Exploding Kittens, I was very much ready to make more games. It's a card game, and like more info should be coming out at some point, maybe in the next few months about that. It's not like a metal thing, more broadly appealing, but I think people will dig it. So,
Oh yeah. Well, Chuck, thank you for joining me and talking about just you. I had a great time. Again, your career has been so expansive and it keeps on going. I just hope that everybody watching this learns something. If you want to get into art design of any kind and music, it's never too late to learn how to play an instrument. And anything else you want to say before we go?
I don't know. I mean, I think I like that last piece of advice, and I would advise people to follow Nike in this. This just do it thing kind of sounds like bullshit, but it's entirely the truth. If you want to do something, you think about it and think about it forever. You gotta do it. You want to make an album? You want to make that black metal album because you think it's so easy to make? It's not impossible, man. Just get in there, make some noise. You don't know how to play guitar? Figure it out while you're making the music. Find something to get into. Or you want to draw? You want to make a comic? People always come up and ask like, "How do you get into comics?" And it's like, well, make some comics. That's step number one, and then show those comics to some people, and so forth, and keep getting better. So like, keep at it. Follow me on the internet.
Yes. All those links will be down below where you can consume and get all of his stuff. And oh wait, one real quick: are you open for commissions?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Although I'm not set up to do like full big commission stuff like with ink and pen and stuff like that. Digital stuff for 100%, and then like smaller like character commissions and stuff. I don't know. Hit me up. We'll figure it out.
Instagram, best way to contact you, or should I put your email down below as well?
Instagram's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
Instagram's good. Sometimes I don't trust that email. Every now and then I lose an email or two. So Instagram's cool.
Yep. Hit him up if you want some work done. Chuck, thank you again. Until next time, everybody, please check out all Chuck's stuff down below, and be sure to follow, like, and subscribe for more cool stuff I'm doing. Later, everybody.
Bye.